And welcome to today's session in the Get Unstuck series. If you are joining me live, please do say hello or pop a hello in the comments. If you're watching on replay, hello. And as always, if you've got questions about the topic, you can pop them into the comments or DM me. I'm happy to receive DMs about your question, and I will come back to you. And today's topic is all about how to self-advocate in your career. But if you haven't joined me before, let me just introduce myself very briefly. I'm Sarah Archer. I'm a career and leadership coach, and I work with female leaders to create, to create career success that's right for them without selling out or burning out. And I do that through either working with them around career advancement, impact and influence and confidence, or career change. And the Get Unstuck series is your 15-minute window in the week to think about you, your career, what you want, what's important to you, what could be helpful to you. So I cover a whole variety of career and leadership topics. And if you've got something you want me to talk about, please just message me and I will do that for you. Very happy to respond to what people feel is going to be helpful. But I'm usually choosing topics that are coming up for the clients that I'm working with, because I think if they're coming up for those clients, then they're probably coming up for you as well. Hence today's topic. And I always keep these sessions short, practical, and with tools and tips you can implement straight away. And if you want to watch the back catalogue, they're either on my YouTube channel, Career Tree Coaching, or in the events section of my LinkedIn profile. And I think I'm on 70 something. So there's lots in there that you can choose from. So let's dive into today's topic, which is all about advocating for yourself at work. So we're going to look at what it is, why is it hard, how to do it, and the benefits of doing it. So what is self-advocacy? In the very basic sense, it's being able to speak up for your own needs and interests. And it means taking a more proactive role in making sure your actions align with your goals, rather than just being sort of swept along with the general flow of things. And to be honest, self-advocacy and resilience are crucial skills for female leaders. I saw a post yesterday from Mary Earps, the England goalkeeper in the women's team, and she was posting about essentially self-advocacy. And, you know, if we don't do it for ourselves, you know, who is going to do it for us? We have to be able to position ourselves, talk about ourselves in a way that means that we get what we need and what we want. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I think when I was thinking about this, I think I kind of learned how to advocate for myself when I worked for Amnesty International, which, you know, obviously is a campaigning organization. So I was surrounded by people who were really skilled advocates, because that's what they were paid to do. They were paid to be able to advocate for people who couldn't advocate for themselves. And they were all skilled at it, both in the external environment, but also in the internal environment. And I was the HR manager there. I reported into the CEO, and I worked alongside other C-suite leaders and managers. And I had to be able to advocate not just for myself, but also for the HR function, and in a sense for the people that I was representing, the employees and the management team. So I had to kind of learn quickly how to be able to advocate effectively. And it was, in a way, a great kind of opportunity to observe people who are really good at it, to reflect on what I did, and to really get clear about what I need to advocate on effectively, which is obviously what we're going to talk about today, is how you do that. But let's talk about why it's hard, because I have to say I didn't find it easy. I'd never had to do that kind of self-advocacy previously, but it was my first kind of leadership role, and I really had to step up and learn how to be an advocate. And a recent survey by Indeed showed that only 43% of women, so fairly chunky amount of women, but certainly below, not over 50%. So 43% of women feel they advocate the right amount for themselves. So that means 57% don't. And they don't because of anxiety, fear of retribution, fear of being labelled aggressive or pushy, being perceived negatively. So it is hard for women, and often in the workplace we can experience microaggressions. We know about the pay gap, the gender pay gap that exists. There's also systemic barriers to advancement that women experience, which all contribute to making it harder for us to self-advocate. And then we've kind of got some internal stuff as well that we have to navigate. It can feel awkward and uncomfortable to self-advocate. I was brought up with a kind of mantra rule, if you like, and you might resonate with this: I want doesn't get. So being clear about what you wanted, expressing what you wanted as a child, was told, well, if you do that, you're not going to get what you want. And those internal rules can trip us up and hold us back later in life too. So we have to kind of get over those internal barriers. And then we might also feel that there's no point in speaking up because we don't see change happening in our organization, or we don't see, or we see other women doing it, but not really making a difference. And so we kind of maybe feel like, what's the point in doing it? But I would say that, even if your organization isn't an organization that's open to you being an advocate for yourself, you have to start stepping into that person that you want to be, because otherwise you take that non-self-advocacy into your next role. So practicing out self-advocacy, even if you're not getting the results you want, puts you in a better place to continue that journey of self-advocacy through your career. So let's think about how to do it. But before we do that, I just want to tell you a little bit about a client that I've worked with who, because sometimes it can be circumstantial as well. So she previously had been able to self-advocate pretty well. And then in her role that she was in, she was working for a female leader, which is interesting, who was very good at advocating for herself, but put my client into a situation where she took the back seat in the meetings that she was in. She wasn't enabled to lead on particular projects. She, her boss took the lead, took the credit for the team. And she felt her role wasn't clear either. And so she felt she lost her confidence and lost her ability to be a self-advocate. And what we're doing now is we're working on her strengths and understanding the value she brings, and some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about in terms of how you can self-advocate. So I suppose just to notice that sometimes it can be the environment that we're in that isn't conducive to us being self-advocating, and that we have to be aware of that and have strategies to be able to manage that if that is happening for us. So just thinking about then how you can do it. Well, the first thing, and I talk about this a lot in the lives that I do, but also with my clients, is being or having clarity. So you have to understand your own needs and your own wants, because if you don't understand what they are, how can you advocate for them? So knowing what you need in order to do your job well, knowing what you want in terms of where you want to go, means that it's easier for people to understand what you want to do in terms of your career advancement and your development, and they can better help you. It's also about getting clarity about knowing where you thrive. So like the client I just mentioned, knowing what the conditions are that enable you to be a good self-advocate is really helpful. So getting that clarity. Also, part of that is understanding your boundaries. So knowing what you will say yes to, knowing what you will say no to, will help you advocate for what you need in order to deliver your job. And also knowing what the available resources are will also help you to advocate for what you need. So knowing what's possible can help with those, in a sense, negotiating sometimes what you want or what you need in your career or in your particular work for your team. The next thing to think about, again, I talk about this quite a bit, is getting used to talking about what you do. And this kind of plays into positioning yourself for what you need as well, and it's advocating for your value. So if you imagine you have two members of staff, and one of them, you ask them how the project's going, and they go, yeah, it's going really well, we're on schedule, I had a few things to iron out, but it's all happening, it's doing really well. You think, great, brilliant. Then you ask the other employee, how's your project going? And they say, yeah, it's on track, but I've had to renegotiate things with the client because I flagged an issue with them. I've had to manage resources because we had somebody go on long-term sick or whatever it might have been. I've had to deal with this particular challenge, and the way I've done that is X or Y. You'll be thinking, great, they've really great problem solver, they've managed things really well, and they're still on track. So then when it comes to promotion or an opportunity or something happening, you might think your second staff member is more ready for that particular opportunity or challenge or project or promotion, because you think of them as being a really skilled problem solver, a negotiator of really, strong client relationships. Whereas the other person in your team, you might think they're great at delivery, but you think they have it easy because they never flag the complexity of what they're doing for you. They just deliver. And sad that it may be, because those two people, those two staff members, are probably equally skilled, because employee one isn't articulating and advocating for themselves in terms of, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is how I add value. It's not seen. So part of being a self-advocate and asking for what you need and what you want is also being able to articulate the value that you bring. So it's getting used to stepping into your power and articulating the value you bring. And women definitely find that harder to do, because we just get on with stuff, don't we? We just deliver. We don't often spend time talking about the way we do it. And particularly when you're working as a leader, you sometimes think, well, my boss, they're really busy, they don't want all this detail. But actually, it can be really helpful to your boss to understand what's going on. So it's getting that balance right. Then you want to think about being able to know your worth, which is part of this self-advocacy and communicating what you do. So really understanding your strengths and your contribution and knowing your value, and again articulating that, so linking it with strengths. And that's with my client, that's what we're working on at the moment, is getting really clear about strengths and the value that she brings to the organization. And again, being able to communicate those. Similarly, kind of communicating what you need to people who can help you. So not being afraid to ask for help when you need to. When you need that, it's part of self-advocacy, is not going it alone, but recognizing I need some help or some support with this, and articulating and asking for that. And being prepared for pushback, because when we advocate for ourselves and ask for what we need, what we want, people aren't always going to say yes. Often you're going to get a no, you're going to get rejection. And it's being prepared for that and building that resilience. As I mentioned before, self-advocacy and resilience are two really key skills for female leaders. So being resilient to that pushback and not letting it deflate you and think, well, I'm not going to try again. So reflection is a superpower for leaders. So, when you have advocated for yourself, when it's perhaps not gone well, it's just taking that time to go, okay, what did go well in that conversation? What didn't go well? And what would I do differently to get a different outcome? Is a really great way of being able to build resilience and also continue to advocate by not taking it personally. You can also think about collaborating with other female leaders in your organization to advocate together for what change you want, because there's obviously more power in doing that as a collective, as a group. So if you feel, you're on the senior leadership team and maybe something like well-being isn't being prioritized enough, coming together as a group to advocate for that for change can be more powerful. Or it could be something else, resource allocation, whatever it might be. Doing it together can actually affect more change. And then there's always the inner work, which again I talk a lot about, because The reason we might not advocate often is, that fear of rejection, fear of retribution, fear of being labelled too aggressive, too bossy. All of those things can get in our way, plus the programming that we've had. So being able to practice positive self-talk, tracking your achievements, thinking about skills you want to improve so you can boost your confidence, and not being afraid to ask for help, is going to be helpful in terms of advocating for yourself, because your confidence has got to be in the right space for you to be able to self-advocate, and they are kind of a symbiotic relationship. The confident you feel, the more likely you are to self-advocate. The more you self-advocate, the more confidence you feel. So they do support one another. So it's taking small steps. If you feel, I'm quite far away from being able to confidently advocate for myself at the moment. And of course, as always, if you feel you want some coaching or some support with this, then do obviously message me and we can have a conversation about your particular situation and what you might need to put into practice to get to the point where you're confidently self-advocating for what you need. So why do this? What are the benefits of advocating for yourself? Well, obviously, in the long run, it means you're better equipped to deal with difficult situations because you've built that resilience and you're clear about asking for what you want and what you need. You're going to feel empowered by standing up, not literally, but, standing up for yourself and advocating for yourself. And again, that's going to give you greater self-confidence. And as we talked about, those things support one another. It's going to enable you to become more open and transparent about what you need, what you want. And that's obviously going to help in terms of people being able to support you in your career growth because they're really clear about what you're looking for, what you need. It's obviously going to improve your communication skills if you can be, open about where you are, what you need, what's going on, what you're doing, etc., etc. And it's going to help you to be a better leader as well, because you can encourage your team and you can enable them and empower them to also become self-advocating, which again improves performance of the team. So just a very quick recap of how to do it. So key is getting clarity, what you want, what you need, what enables you to thrive, what your boundaries are. Get used to talking about you, what you do, how you do it, know your own worth. Collaborate where possible with other female leaders. Don't be afraid to ask for help and do that inner work that means you can build your confidence in order to advocate well for yourself. So do let me know how it goes. If you've got any success stories, please do share them. If you've got other tips that you feel would be useful in terms of advocating for yourself, then please do share them. And I'll be back next Wednesday to talk about another career topic, which I haven't decided on yet. So I will see you back here at 12:15 next Wednesday. Have a great week.